Thanks for joining us over here at Maniac, where we talk about whatever we feel like talking about for the day. Yeah. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Taylor.
And let's get started.
So how have you been, Sarah?
I have been struggling.
Yeah.
It's been the good kind of struggle, right? Where, I went to the doctor, scheduled a surgery. This will be my first surgery as far as my endometriosis goes. And I am looking forward to it, but also it is very stressful and it gives me a lot of anxiety. I was very excited to meet this new doctor. Of course, the day before my visit, I had a mental breakdown and I was texting you, right?
Yeah.
Because it was just so much anxiety. I've been in and out of doctors for the past year and a half, and I just feel every time I go, I'm throwing money at a wall and no one is helping me or even caring about what I tell them or even listening to me. And so I've basically been doctor hopping for the most part. I'll go see specialists that I have to see for specific things, but then I'll go see I think this is my 6th OBGYN this year. So I will just go to a different doctor if I feel that doctor really just isn't fitting the criteria that I expect from my medical professional, right?
Yeah.
And I went to a new doctor. It was really refreshing to have this doctor seem as outraged as I was, that no one was assisting me and no one was trying to follow through with this or listening to me in any way. And nothing was different about this visit, right? I came in, same thing. I have a whole list of things I've been experiencing, all of my symptoms and side effects. I have my medical history, I have my birth control history, I have all of that set aside, and I tell the doctor all of that every time I go in. And this is the first doctor that was what are these people doing? He's I don't know if, it's just laziness. I don't know if it's just they are just too new and don't understand. He's but we need to do a surgery on you. That's the next step. That's the only thing we can do at this point. Because if they just keep trying to throw these different medications at you and all this stuff, at this point, clearly it's not working. You have to do something else. And so that was really refreshing. And then on top of that, this is the first doctor that I had where he literally drew out a diagram. I think he took 45 minutes just to draw out a diagram and fully explain endometriosis to me and fully explain the difference between what a normal menstrual cycle should be compared to someone who might experience endometriosis, right? And just explain all the terminology, explain all the locations where you could be experiencing this and everything. I was shocked and just so ecstatic that this doctor was taking the time to actually talk to me and actually give a shit about me, right? That was really exciting. And so then, we decided that we are going to have to move forward with the surgery. It is an invasive surgery, but it's an outpatient surgery. So, and in the morning, surgery is over, and then you leave a couple hours after you've awoken from anesthesia and everything. It's scary because they don't really know what they're going into, right? So, I don't know if you're aware, but endometriosis, you can't actually see anything on any kind of scans. So the only way to actually see any kind of lesions or anything that may be growing outside of your uterus, right? So in your abdominal cavity or on your ovaries or anything like that, they have to go in and do this surgery and they have to have a probe and actually look inside. And so basically, the surgery could range from 30 minutes where they go in, they take a look around, there's maybe a couple lesions that they can get rid of, and then it could range to hours where they go in and it's just chaos everywhere. So I'm a little concerned with that because I've been experiencing this for 15 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're worried about chaos.
I'm worried about chaos. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But it's weird, right? So I've been experiencing this for 15 years, but I thought it was normal because every other woman in my family also experiences this. And that's how we have those conversations, right? About menstruating and about cramping and how you're supposed to feel and everything. If every other woman in my family, who are the people who I'm talking to about this, experience the same thing, then it doesn't seem out of place, right? And it wasn't until recently where I've gotten more open talking about my health because shit's been wrong, right? And I'm just I'll talk to everyone because I'm you might have more information that I'm not aware of. Please tell me something, right? Maybe yours is different. And so I just started talking to everyone. Literally everyone.
Yeah.
And, like, people I just met, I would, like, start asking questions about, like, if they have endometriosis, or, you know, like, if, you know, like, they have, like, normal cramping or, like, normal mood swings or anything like that when they're menstruating. And I realized, like, oh, my shit's not normal, right? This is not the, like, normal health basis that I should be at. And so that's when I was like, oh, maybe I should really, like, talk to someone, especially because I was having all of those additional health problems that have escalated. And, you know, we did all the testing and they don't know what's wrong, and basically it could all be just related to this.
Yeah.
So kind of like getting to that point where I'm like, oh, I think we might have an answer now. And just kind of moving forward with that has been refreshing.
Yeah.
Also scary.
Yeah. It is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully surgery will go okay. It's not for like 2 months.
It's not for 2 months?
Yeah. That's the earliest I
That's
can get in.
the earliest they
booked.
can. Oh my gosh.
Booked out. Not for 2 months.
Did he prescribe anything to help you during the 2 months before?
He asked me if I wanted something.
Yeah.
So he asked me, like, what do I normally do?
Yeah.
To try and combat pains and, you know, like, all the other things I experience. And I was like, you know, I normally just take a little Tylenol if it's really, really bad. And he's like, just Tylenol? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
He's like, that's all you take? And I was like, well, and then I have to explain, like, oh, well, I have 2 liver tumors. I can't take any, like, ibuprofens. Most medications are not good for me to take, right? Because they impact that. I was like, I have this cyst in my pituitary gland, and then I'm also, like, really, really sensitive to medicine. Like, aggressively sensitive to medicine, right? So even if you prescribe me something, it's usually, like, way past my threshold, and then I have other problems on top of that. And I've been living with this so long that, like, my base pain line is a 4. I sit at a 4 24/7. That's just, like, where I'm at. And to me now, like, mentally, I've just built up this
resistance.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is where I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah.
This 4 is normal. And then, like, if it spikes up or something like that, then I'm like, oh, okay, like, I'll take some Tylenol and, like, maybe just go to sleep for a couple hours, and hopefully when I wake up, it'll be okay. But I guess, you know, I'm just kind of, like, more used to living this way, which is miserable, but, you know, like, you have to cope with it somehow and, like, get through it, especially when I can't take anything for it. So he did offer, he's like, do you want me to, like, prescribe some, like, pain medications or anything like that? And I declined because I've been there, done that, and it just has not gone well for me.
I'm surprised you declined. I think I would have just said yes.
No.
Yeah.
I like, in the past, normally I'm just like, yeah, just, you know, give me whatever you think may assist, right? And I'll try whatever. But, like, the past year, right, where I was, like, going through all different types of medications, and every single one, I was just, like, immensely sick, or I would have horrible side effects, or I would end up in the ER because I'm almost at, like, an overdose situation, right? Like, and that's medications at their lowest possible dose that someone can give me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now I'm at the point where, like, I'm really careful about what medications I take. And I have to know that, like, it's something that I react well to, or it's on that same kind of spectrum of medications that I react well to. And if I don't feel like I absolutely need it, I won't take it. Because I'm tired of, like, having to, like, go through that, like, miserable state while I'm trying to take this medicine, and it's just horrible. And then having to crawl myself back out from that state after I've gone off that medication. And I'm just like, no, I would rather suffer my normal amount than have to, like, suffer in addition to this, trying to make it better.
Yeah. So he offered you the medicine, you said no. Did he offer up anything else?
He asked me if, like, I wanted to do anything else, and I was like, you know, at this point I've tried everything. Like, I did yoga, like, you know, I've tried, like, meditating, I've tried, like, home remedies, I've tried, like, your like, tried and true, like, just, like, heating pads, I've tried, you know, like, ice baths, I've tried all kinds of stuff, and I've tried all kinds of medications, and nothing has worked for me, which is why he was like, he wasn't pushing it, but he was like, I'm telling you that I think you were at the point where we need to do this surgery.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you agree with me? And, like, I'm sure if I had disagreed, he would have been like, no, I think we need to do this.
Yeah.
But I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, I agree that we're at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not much more I can do. I'm just gonna stick it out for another 2 months and then have surgery. The problem is that I could have the surgery and then more lesions could grow in the future, and then I'd have to have another surgery in the future. Or they could go in, find something that's, like, detrimentally wrong, and then we would have to do, like, a more invasive surgery, like a hysterectomy or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a partial hysterectomy or something like that, right? So, which I don't want to do a partial at all. If we're going to do it, I want to do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not aware of this, when you do a partial hysterectomy, they leave your cervix.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with leaving the cervix behind is it increases your chance of getting ovarian cancer by 90%.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do partial.
Yeah.
Like, if they're going to do it,
just take it all out.
take it all.
Yeah.
Take it all out.
Yeah.
I don't want it anymore at that point. So just, like, going through that and just trying to, like, mentally prepare myself for the, like, worst possible case scenario has been stressful. It's still a positive outcome right now. Like, we're moving forward. This is progress.
Yeah, this is big progress.
Big progress.
You have the surgery scheduled, so
Yes.
that's good.
That's where I'm at. But, you know, I did have, like, that breakdown where I just felt useless.
Why?
I just felt like, let's say things in life are going wrong, right? Like, maybe you're not working, maybe you're not in a relationship, you know, maybe you have just, like, gotten a car accident, lost your car, like, all of these things are happening to you, right? And you lose all of these external things, right? Usually you can still look back at yourself and be like, oh, well, you know, like, at least I'm, like, healthy, at least I'm, like, surviving, right? And, like, at least I can provide with who I am and what I have, right? Without anything else.
I can't relate to that. Sorry, I can't relate. I don't get it, but keep going.
So, like, I guess, like, my mindset went to that, like, okay, I don't work, I'm a housewife, right? My goal and, like, our family goal, right, was that, you know, like, I would be able to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, that was our
That was their dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going through this, right, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't provide income to this house, you know, like, I no longer can provide children to this house from my body, right? Like, what am I without, like, just being a wife, right? Like, I'm so ill I can't do anything that I enjoy doing anymore, right? Like, I had to give up soccer, and which I spent, like, all my time doing, right? I am struggling to be able to, like, read subtitles and watch shows for, like, long periods of time, which I'm a binger, so that's what I enjoy doing. I love cinema, I love movies and shows and everything.
Yeah.
I had to give up all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm just, like, a shell of a person, right? And so that mindset just started to spiral. And I was just like, what? Like, why am I even here? You know, like, if I'm not doing anything. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't change the situation. I can't give anything, right? I guess that, like, that spiral thinking just spiraled out of control. I just cried for several hours, which I think is totally healthy, right? Like, every now and then you should cry. That's a normal thing that helps get you back on track.
Yeah, I agree.
So, cried for several hours, took a long nap.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I was like, okay, I guess, you know, sun's bright again.
Yeah.
We're moving forward.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't give anything personally. And therefore, like, why was I here?
I think you're putting too much pressure on yourself in order to give something.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't think you need to give anything. That's the thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, I've always had to be the person who gives everything and does everything. And, like, I raised my younger siblings, right? I had to basically take care of my mother because she's not exactly the best adult, right? I have had to like work nonstop to be able to like provide for myself and provide for other people. I've always had to like do something and provide something, and that's how it's been forever, like since I can remember. And now I'm like at this point where I don't do any of that, and I just feel like I'm wasting away almost, because I have that mindset where like if I'm not doing this, if I'm not providing this, then what am I even doing? Like why am I here? But it's not a healthy mindset.
Yeah. I think you associate your existence, your sense of being, with providing.
Yeah.
Which is really difficult, I think. Yeah. Because I think it oftentimes then boils your being down to just being your occupation. Like, yeah. I think I would have hated it being just an accountant.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be my purpose for being here. So I don't feel as though, like, you having no job, for example, is anything associated with your sense of being and your purpose of being here. Yeah. 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 I like to think that. Yeah. So logically, you can think that, but it's harder accepting it. Yes. Like, I see.
Yes, it's like, I like to think logically and be able to get to that point, but then sometimes that, like, inner sabotage just, like, creeps in. Yeah. And is like, you are doing nothing, right? And that's not true. Like, I may not provide monetarily for the household, but I do all the household work, right? Like, I cook, I clean, I do all of our laundry. I literally put the house together, right? Like, I install the ceiling fans, I fix the lighting, I do the wiring, I fixed plumbing, right? Like I go above just a normal housewife, right? I'm like the housewife and the handyman. And, like, I paint everything, right? And I provide in that way, right? But to me, I'm just always like, oh, I'm not taking this, like, financial burden, right? And because I'm not taking this financial burden, right, like, really, you could put anybody else in my place.
That's not true.
I mean, you could hire a maid. You could hire a handyman.
I know, but, like, that's not Sarah.
Yes. But sometimes just those, like, negative thoughts come in. And that's where I'm like, oh, okay, like, I guess technically you could get several people to do what I do, right? But again, it's not me, right? They don't provide comedic relief to life.
They don't provide your amazing personality.
Yes. All my little quirks. You know, all my cows. Where will my cows be? So this past, like, week has been negative for me. Overall, like, mental state is getting better.
That's good.
I think it was just, like, it really was that stress of, like, more doctor's appointments, like, trying to figure out, like, where we're going forward and everything, and then kind of getting to a good place in that whole situation and being able to be like, okay, yeah, this is great, like, this is where we should be, this is really positive. You got here right before the podcast, and I was on the phone with my grandma, right? And I was still feeling kind of, like, negative this morning. And every time I talk to my grandma, like, the whole situation changes, right? She's like, this is great! And I'm like, you're right, Grandma, this is great. Yeah. Love that woman. She's the world. So now I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, like, you're right, this is where I should be. And we're getting to it. Yeah, so. We're getting to it. Things are being done. I think, too, like, I probably shouldn't look at the situation like, oh, okay, let's mentally prepare myself for the worst case scenario. In reality, like, I should look at what I'm actually facing and face that. Yeah. And then that relieves some of that kind of, like, anxiety and that stress, just constantly thinking about, like, oh, but what if this happens, right? Like, what will I do in this situation? Because what ifs are never ending. No. Right? Yeah. And you can't prepare for all of them. There's no way. That's just how life is. Yeah. So I'm trying to get to that point, right, where I'm like, okay, I have this surgery, and this surgery in itself is a good surgery, right? It's a good thing. It's the best step I could possibly take, and that is positive in itself.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's where I'm getting to, right? So I think it's moving forward. It's going well.
Yeah.
This is how I know I'm not doing well, when I start watching, like, really horrible TV. And, like, TV shows that, like, you don't really have to pay attention to at all, and they're just, like, terrible production and stuff. I started watching Ink Master.
Oh, yes.
But not, like, the newer seasons.
Oh, you're watching the old seasons?
I'm watching, like, the first season.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not before they've figured out everything and, like, the... like, cinema has improved.
Yeah.
It's like if you go back and you watch RuPaul's Drag Race and you watch the first seasons with, like, that horrible filter over the entire season. Yeah. That's what I'm watching.
Well, it's like watching any old MTV show.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing. And so, like, when that happens, I'll, like, realize and I'm like, oh, this is not a good state of mind. Yeah. And then I have to kind of, like, crawl myself back out.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happens, but I do, like, backtrack to those really terrible shows that are, like, horribly produced.
Yeah, well, it's easier to turn your mind off on those. I think that's the main draw. Yeah.
How have you been doing? Like, how's it been going?
Good. Well, they've been okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, I have ups and downs with my depression. And so last week I talked to my psychiatrist. And things have been going okay, but, like, getting up later and starting my day later, which is usually, like, a sign, like my psychiatrist said, that my depression might be, like, tipping downwards. And I would have to agree. I would say, like, I'm not as up and as positive as before. But I don't think it's the fault of the medication. I think we definitely capped out where the medication is doing what it's supposed to do, which is what my psychiatrist said as well. So then now it's a factor of me working on it myself and giving myself a reason to get up and start my day.
Right.
And having that sense of, like, oh, I need to do something today.
Yeah.
This podcast was my sense of...
that thing today.
Yeah, that thing today.
I feel that 100%.
Yeah.
I also have depression.
Yeah.
Right? And anxiety. I have those situations, right? Unfortunately, I cannot take medication like you, and it's just different for every single person. But I will find myself in bed, and it'll be, like, noon, right? And I'll be telling myself, you know, like, you should get out of bed. It's noon. But then I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What am I going to get out of bed and do? What, like, I did everything already these past couple of days.
Yeah.
Why would I get up? And then I stay there until, like, 4 p.m. Until it's time to, like, eat dinner, right?
Yeah.
And then I get up to eat dinner.
Yeah.
And then I go back.
Yes.
So I definitely feel that.
Yes.
And it is hard to find things that get you to wake up every day. Right? Like, we can't podcast every day.
No.
I mean, we could. But it's a lot of strain.
It's a lot of strain.
So it's a lot of driving. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we would run out of things to talk about.
Right. And, like, at that point, I think that would be more stressful. You may not even want to get up to do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do on those other days? You know, like, what have you found that actually gets you excited to get up other than podcasting? You know?
My psychiatrist has recommended I start small, which is by, like, getting up and, like, letting the dogs out or maybe taking the dogs out for a walk. I've done neither of those. So my issue isn't that I have things to do, because I have a lot of things I need to do and a lot of things I need to get done and a lot of things I can do, right? It's just me not feeling like they're worth it. Yeah. That's the issue. Yeah. It's not that those things don't exist, because they do exist. I'm always going to have a laundry list of things to do since I just exist.
Yeah, I am an adult.
Yeah, I'm an adult. You know, I'm gonna always have things to do, but it's making those things a priority. Yeah, and they're oftentimes not a priority for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think too, like, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I have this mindset where I will be like, oh, I could do this painting project, right? Like, I like to paint and do crafts and things like that. Yeah. And I'll be like, oh, well, I could paint this piece that I have been thinking about and contemplating starting. But then I'll stop myself because I'll be like, I don't think I have the energy to complete it, to finish it. So I don't want to even start this. Yeah. So then I just don't do any of those things because I'm like, I don't think I'll finish. I don't think I can get there. Yeah. Right? And so I kind of have that mentality where, like, if I can't complete the task, why even do the task? And I think that makes it hard for me as well because I'm like, I have all these things that I can do. Yeah. And that, like, I look forward to doing and I enjoy doing, but I just feel like I can't do them. Yeah. I feel like our issues are entirely different. Really? They're really similar but different because you have the motivation and you have the willingness to do those things, so they are a priority to you, but you don't have the energy. Yeah. Because your physical being isn't great. Yeah. My physical being is totally fine, but my mental being is, like, way out of it. Why are we such opposites? Yes. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yes. So I think if you had my physical body, you'd be doing so much there. Just morph together. Yeah, we should. We would be one great person. Yes. One functioning person. Yes. One very functioning person. Yeah. We could accomplish so much. Yes. I think I do have a couple days where I'm more similar to you, right? Where I don't have the motivation at all. And usually those are, like, my really bad days. Where, like, because, like, depression fluctuates, right? Yeah. Like, not every day's the same. Yeah. You don't feel the same. Even during the day, you don't feel the same throughout the entire day, right? Yeah. So I will have those really bad days where, like, I have no motivation. I won't eat. I won't drink water. Well, I won't drink water on the regular, but aside from that, I won't, like, brush my teeth. I won't shower. And I think that's the, like, when people think of depression, that's the mental image they get, right? Like, someone who's just, like, incapable of doing any of these things at all. Yeah. And I'll have a couple days like that. But majority of the time, I do have the motivation to get up. I just physically can't. Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that's different. Yeah. Because I think most of my days were like the first case scenario which you presented, where it's that classic case of depression that people imagine where you just really can't get out of bed and do anything, even though physically you're totally fine. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what I've been struggling with. Well, maybe late, because I was running late. Was that I was studying. Well, I put off the studying till, well, the exam's on Friday. Oh, procrastination. Yes. Okay. So I was supposed to study last week when I booked the exam. But then I was like, I can just study the last 2 days before the exam. Which is totally just... I mean, that's every student's mindset. Yeah. So... So that's what I was doing beforehand. But what I'm studying for is, I'm going to see if I can become a teacher. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Do you like teaching? Like... No. No? Just feel like that's where you should go? Well, I took a career assessment test. Oh, okay. And teacher appeared quite a few times. Oh. Kind of sounded like an art teacher. Well, the first one thing they suggested was I should be an architecture teacher. Like an architecture professor type. Don't you have to, like, know architecture to do that? Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. I know. Yeah, that is a lot to know architecture in order to do that. And but I have, like, no interest in architecture. Yeah. I think if you had presented that to me as a younger kid when I was, like, right out of college or high school, I would have been like, yeah, I could this be... This is great. Yeah, I could become an architecture teacher. Yeah, I could do that. But now, realistically, I'm just kind of like... let's drop the architecture part. Yes. And let's just do the teacher part and see how that goes. Yeah. I've never thought about being a teacher because I've done tutoring before. And tutoring was difficult for me. Because if the person didn't get it the first time around, I would get really frustrated. But I feel like I've changed since then because the last time I did tutoring, last time I did tutoring, I was, like, in early years of high school. Oh, yeah, 100% have changed.
Yeah.
Different person.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm more understanding, where if a person doesn't get it the first time around, I'm like, yeah, because I'm processing things differently than you are. I feel like things have changed, so I should give it another shot.
Right.
So I applied for a couple of teaching programs. I talked to one of my friends who's a teacher. Mm-hmm. I visited her in her classroom to see.
Wait, what grade?
She teaches high school.
Okay, that's not bad. Don't do middle school.
Oh yeah, I know.
Whatever you do, don't do middle school.
I'm aiming for high school, and I'm aiming to teach business in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
There is a teacher shortage right now.
Yeah, so yeah. There is a teacher shortage. I'm hoping to get in the classroom by October.
Oh, so soon.
Yes, which is why I scheduled the exam, like, immediately.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So this exam is just for me to get into the teaching program. I want to get everything done soon, everything done quickly, so that I can experience that as soon as possible.
Wow.
Yeah, so the goal is to see if I can get into the classroom by October, and then see if I like it or not. I think my main concern is I won't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So originally, when I was still in college and everything, I have 2 degrees, right? One's in psychology and one is in victim studies, but it's criminal justice technically, right?
Yeah.
I love working with kids. And so I was like, maybe I should just be a teacher.
Yeah.
And while I was still in college, I decided to be a substitute teacher.
Yes.
So I became a sub, which is why I know don't do middle school. But I hated it.
Yeah.
With like every fiber of my being.
I know we talked about this. This is why I asked you, because I was curious.
I just think it takes such a strong individual to be a teacher. I feel like there just isn't enough justice for our teachers and our academic system and everything here, which I think is more so the reason why I get really frustrated with it, because teaching itself is great and it depends on the environment you're in. So like I not only was a substitute teacher, but after that, when I graduated, I went into mental health and I was in a care facility for children who had disabilities, right? And so I was their teacher, their caregiver, I did their therapy sessions, I did everything, right? Yeah. But majority of my day was spent teaching them in a classroom, but very small groups, right? Small groups. And of course, like, these kids have behavioral issues and they have, like, certain things they can't complete or do. Yeah. And you have to kind of accommodate. But I loved that job. And it was just such a different environment from actually teaching in the public school system and right, because it's a private business, and of course, like, I think maximum I had 4 kids in a classroom, and although like these children can be a little more difficult to handle on the daily, only having 4 of them to you is a lot easier to handle than having a classroom of 30 kids, right? I also found that, like, I was more drawn to the younger kids, so like K through 5th grade.
5th grade, yeah.
Love them. They're just, like, so open to learning and usually so, like, energetic and excited to be there. Yeah. Versus, like, as they get older, you know, you start to get more cynical of the school system and you're like, why am I here? I'm gonna ditch this class. Like, I'm not listening to you, right? Test authority and stuff. So I do think, like, I think there was a possibility that I could have been a teacher had I been in the right situation, like maybe for a private school. And even to this day, I would love to homeschool my kids in the future, right? Like, just because I am so fed up with the American school system.
That's fair.
Not even just the school system, but, like, we have a lot of gun violence here, right? And it's just terrifying at this time and age to think to send your kid to a school and they may never come home. Right? So I would much rather homeschool my kid and have them in a lot of extracurricular activities, and that's where they get, like, their socialization and everything, and, like, running around the neighborhood with other neighborhood kids and everything. I just don't think, me personally, I could be a public school teacher here.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I've had those concerns as well. Yeah. The program advisor also advised me to start subbing in the fall.
Yes.
To see if I would like teaching.
Yeah.
But she was like, the earliest we can get you in the classroom is October. So I was like, there's no point in me subbing if the earliest I can get in is in the fall anyways, in October. So I'd rather just do everything.
Yeah.
And then get in there, see if I like it. And if not, just leave.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're familiar with people just leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm gonna be honest. I think that you are a sturdier person than me.
Really? Like, I feel like you're sturdier than I am.
No. Nope. I just like seem sturdy on the outside, but I am not sturdy at all. Like,
no, you really do seem it, Sarah. That's why when I asked you about the teacher thing, and then you were telling me about your teaching experience, I was like, oh, I could totally see Sarah as a teacher. Definitely within that K through 5th grade.
Yeah, I love K through 3rd. That's like, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
but it was just too stressful for me, right? Like, you come in, one, substituting is not the same as teaching, right?
Oh, no, it's definitely not.
Unless you're doing long-term subbing, which is hard to do as a college student, right? Like, I didn't have the opportunity to do really long-term subs.
Yeah.
It's very different, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not spending the time to come up with the curriculum and, you know, implement all of this and everything like that. I also don't have the time to really connect with these kids.
Yeah.
So, of course, like, I have way less authority than their actual teacher does, because their teacher is with them every single day and knows all of their names already, like, and knows their family situations, knows everything, right? Knows their habits. Subbing is harder than teaching, I would say, because you come in blind.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of have to, like, swim your way upstream all day, and then you start over the next day, right, with a whole new class, you just start fresh every day.
Yeah.
So I do think that, like, being a normal teacher, right, where you're there every day and you have your class and you get to build those relationships, right, and build that trust with your class, I do think that could have relieved some of the stress, but I still get so stressed out, like, thinking, okay, I need to come up with this curriculum. It needs to be taught in a manner that all of the kids can understand, because not everyone learns the same, right?
Yeah.
I need to be able to meet the standards of the school, not only meet the standards of what I think the children should be at, right? In order to get to their next grade level, right? And then you have to also, like, maintain a good relationship with your students, with their parents, with the school. Like, it's a lot of factors to me that give me a lot of anxiety, right?
I think when you look at it from that perspective, it definitely seems overwhelming.
Yes. And I think you're just more sturdy in that sense, where you're gonna do a lot better than I would have done in this situation.
I think I don't think about it from that perspective.
Right. Right? Like, I'm like, the world is burning. And you're like, no, I think we're okay. Like, so I think I just have, like, a lot more anxiety.
Yeah.
And,
did you try teaching something like an elective, like art?
Yes, I would have loved to be an art teacher.
Yeah. I could definitely see you as an art teacher.
Or a librarian.
Yeah.
Let me be a librarian.
Within that K-5.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought about doing art. I'm also really good at math. Which is very weird for me, but it just clicks in my head. And so I thought about doing math, and then, like, when I was thinking about this, they changed the whole math system.
Yeah, I definitely think the core subjects are way more stressful.
Yeah, what?
And they're always updating it.
Yes.
Yes, and so you're always gonna be out of date.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, what is going on? I thought about being, like, PE, athletics, because I'm very athletic. I love doing those things. Yeah. But I don't know. I just, like, I substituted for several, like, PE teachers, right, for several athletic classes, and they were enjoyable, but at the same time, like, I just wasn't in love with it, right? I didn't love doing it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kids, it wasn't like the school itself, it's just the way the school system is set up here. I really dislike it. And I think what really hurt me and my mindset towards it was that I started learning about schooling systems in other countries, like Finland. Beautiful. Their school system is just amazing. They actually have one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
And I started like learning that, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
And then also because I started working with children who have like learning inabilities, right? I was like, okay, this school system is set up for them to fail. And I spent a lot of time around a bunch of other teachers and other people, right? And I just felt like the teachers that I interacted with didn't care, right? Like they're there because they're just there. And I felt like they weren't really invested in these kids' futures, right? And like, I know, because I had a really hard time in school, that if I hadn't had those teachers that were truly invested in me, right, and truly cared about not only my like educational well-being, but my mental and physical well-being, I would not be here today. I know that for a fact. I guess like experiencing that growing up and then going back into our school system and seeing that that's not the majority anymore, that like really painted it in a bad light for me. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. And it took me a little while to like really compare it and be like, okay, what are the pros and cons, right? Like a pro is I am one of those people who would really care for my students, right? And if I went into the school system, that's one person who's getting it back to where like I personally believe it should be, right? And it's one person who can like really look at this and have this understanding outside of just the educational realm, right? Like I have a psychological background, I have a victim studies background, so I am able to like recognize when kids are in like sticky situations, right? And so I'm like, okay, this would be a pro for everyone else. But is it a pro for me? And that's where I kind of got to where I was like, I don't think it would be good for me for me to go in and constantly be in that state of mind, right? And so I was like, I don't think it's right for me. And so that's kind of why like I pulled away. And that's why I say like I hated substituting, because it was glimpses into all the things that I dislike about this system. Right? And I'm like, not for me. But I do think that like I think like you are just emotionally and mentally more sturdy than I am. And so I think that you're gonna excel more than I would have.
Well, I hope I enjoy it. I think, like I said, my main concern is I'll do it and then I won't like it, and then it's another thing that I add to my long laundry list of things I don't like.
I know. I know how that goes.
And so then I'll be back where I started. At the same time, like my therapist says, I'm not doing anything right now, so I might as well try.
I think it's really interesting that you have like taken these steps. I admire that so much.
Really?
Yes. I do, because I've been having these same kind of thoughts. To me, I feel like with your depression and your mental state, right? Like, you're progressing a lot faster than I am.
Really?
That's how I truly feel.
Really?
I feel like you progress so much quicker than me.
I feel like it has taken me forever to get to this point.
I don't know, because in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, you only quit your job, what, maybe 2 years ago now? Not even?
No, it's been a year.
A year?
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And from that point to now,
yeah,
I feel like you have made so much progress in your mental state.
Oh, well, yeah, I definitely have. It's the meds for sure.
But even that, and sometimes, you know, I'm like, okay, I can see that, like, our situations are not the same, right? So, like, unfortunately, I cannot take medication. And, like, I tried. Yeah. We did everything we possibly could, right?
I know.
Several ER visits later, and I just can't do it. And so I sometimes feel this, like, little jealous ping of, like, I think you're progressing so much more because you're able to take this medication and you're able to, like, move forward at a better baseline. Yeah. And I want to be there. Like you, right? Like, I want to get there. Yeah. And I'm just like, I feel like I can't get there.
No, you're getting there, Sarah.
I try.
Yeah.
But I just think it's amazing that, like, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this teaching certificate. I'm gonna go and start this and see where I'm at. And I think it's interesting because I have lately been thinking about, like, maybe I should go back to school and do what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, right? Which is what?
I really wanted to be an archaeologist.
Archaeologist.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Archaeologist, and I wanted to study geology, specifically like more so in like minerals.
My gosh, I hated geology.
Yes.
It was one of my least favorite classes that I took.
Oh my
Everyone
gosh.
was like, it's so easy, the professor's great, which he was. He was so nice. But I hated the class. I just did not like learning about rocks.
I love rocks. I collect them.
Yes, so I know.
I love it, and I love archaeology. I love, like, learning about, like, ancient civilizations and, like, all these histories and stuff. And when I was a kid, that's really what I wanted to do. Life had different plans, right? Yeah. You know, I experienced a lot of, like, really horrible situations going into school, like going into college, and that dictated what fields I ended up studying because I was in an abusive relationship, right? I nearly died. Literally, like, the summer and like the first couple of months of my first semester of school. Yeah. I nearly died, and then I was able to get out of that situation, and then my mindset was, I don't understand why I was even there or why I stayed in that situation. And I started studying psychology, right? Because I was like, I need to understand why my brain worked the way it did. Yeah. And then I started studying victim studies as well because I was like, I need to understand what was out there that I could have gone to, that I could have had these resources. Yeah. So that I know now and I can help others who were in the same situation, right? So because of that horrible situation, it dictated what I ended up studying. And I loved those. I loved, you know, studying both those subject matters. They came very easily to me. And then, like, after I graduated and I started working in those fields, I realized that, like, this isn't really something that I want to do my whole life, right? Like, it's not the thing that I was so passionate about. Yeah. It was just something I needed to understand in that moment of time. Yeah, yeah. And so now I'm like, maybe I should go back to school, and maybe I should try and, like, move towards a profession that is something I really enjoy. Yeah. I really want to commend you on you being like, you know what, I think I might be good at this. I'm going to take the steps to do it. Right? And even if you're like, in the end, you're like, I hate this, I don't want to do this, and you quit, you still took the steps to get there. Yeah. Right? And like, I haven't been able to take those steps yet.
Yet, but you're getting there.
We'll see.
No, but this reminds me of something my therapist said, which is like, things that you learn in the classroom, just because you enjoy learning it, doesn't necessarily translate into a real life career. Correct. That you will enjoy. Right. So it's hard to differentiate the two when you're so young and when you're deciding your major. Yes. And you're deciding
your life.
You're deciding your life, yeah. So you can always definitely, Sarah, I agree that you can go back to school.
It's also a lot of schooling. It takes a lot of schooling.
Yeah, for sure. Have you looked into programs or anything?
No, I haven't gone that far. I think, too, like, I feel like I'm so old, right? No. And I think about this a lot, right? Like, 30 feels so old to me. Like, I feel like I should already be established and, like, that, like, this, I should know what I should be doing, right? But that's not true. Yeah. Right? Like, I think it's just that, like, I grew up in a family where, to them, like, you should know what you're doing when you are done with school. Like, you should have your, like, life set out, basically. And also, like, being raised by my grandma, that was a different time, right? Like, she got married at, like, 17.
Yeah.
Had already started having her family at, like, 20.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's very different. It's a very different time frame that they follow. So I think sometimes I just still have that mindset where I'm like, oh, I don't need to be established yet. Like, I don't need to have it all figured out, you know? And I think about, like, celebrities a lot, right? And a lot of them, like Oprah got fired from her job at 32. Like, Oprah wasn't Oprah yet at 32.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think about that, and I'm like, oh, these people who are infinitely successful now, right, weren't successful at this point in time in their lives. Yeah. And there's nothing written in stone that says that I need to be. But then I still have that, like, those insecurities where I'm like, oh, do I start new now, right? And then starting new now and go through all these efforts, and then that was for nothing because I don't like it. And now I have to start new again. Yeah. And I'm just like, when do you get to the point where you're like, I shouldn't start anything anymore, right? Like, or is there even a point where you should say that, right?
I think education is always something you can go back to. Yeah. I think no matter what age you are, you can always go back to it. Yeah. And I think I had that mindset because when I first started college, I was in construction management. Which is why... Interesting. Yes, construction management, which is why the architecture teacher thing doesn't seem too far off. Yeah. But I was in construction management, and majority of my classmates were all older men. They were all older men who are already working in the field, but are going back to school to get a degree so that they can get a higher place up in the job, right? And they're continuing the education. And I was impressed by these people because they were not only working a full-time job, but they were taking time out of their day to take these late night classes, which is what a majority of those classes were. And so then I always had the belief that you can, like, continue your education anytime. Yeah. And that school's always gonna be there. Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't think you're behind at all if you decide to go back to school and do the thing. Because, you'll always have a chance to learn. Yeah. I think, too, like, here, like, school's a financial burden as well. Yes. So, you know, like... I think the financial burden part is more of a worry than the time part. Yeah. And I am still in student loan debt from my bachelor's. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. You know, you can just add to it. It's already, you know... If you become a student again, you don't have to pay loans while you're a student. Yeah, so it just continues to build. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, like, my main thing is I already have so much student loan debt that I'm like, do I want to add to it? Like, well, I think you might as well since it's already so much. Yeah. It's... the school system here sucks. Yeah, I would agree. Thanks for hanging out with us. This has been a great time. I'm hoping that you'll join us for the next podcast. This is Taylor. And this is Sarah. And this is The Maniac. Yeah!